and sustainability and restoring trust in financing practices. A very amazing woman. I'm really looking forward to hearing her speech, what she has to say in the panel. And then we have Ms. Bramble, Ms. Shona Bramble, who is a 14-year Toastmaster veteran. She's the founder and member, not just member, founder, University Speaking Toastmasters. And she's their current Vice President of Public Relations. But she's also served in numerous roles throughout her career, her Toastmaster career: President, Vice President of Education, Vice President of Public Relations multiple times, and other prominent roles. She's a mentor and coach, and she started a series called Lunch with the Toastmaster and Dinner with the Toastmaster. And I encourage you guys to reach out to her and form an alliance with her later she can tell you more about that. And then last but definitely not least, we have Miss Daphne Jean. Miss Daphne Jean is a mover and a shaker. Okay, she's an accomplished and performance-driven fundraiser. Okay, she has worked with foundations like the Gates Foundation. I'm sure you guys have heard that, Hewlett Packard, and she helped all of these organizations, including government organizations, raise over $17 million. Okay, get that. She's an alum of George Mason and the University of Maryland College Park. She has a degree in master's degree in global affairs and bachelor's in psychology. So she set up a high performance project around setting up a LinkedIn account for She Leads, She Speaks, and also a LinkedIn campaign. So I'm very, very excited to and looking forward to hearing the panel discussion on the High Performance Leadership Program from these beautiful panelists. And I just ask you all to welcome our moderator and panelists for our educational session. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Merritt Taylor, our moderator.
Thank you very much, Natasha. Can everyone hear me? I'm going to assume so. I only see myself at this point. So let's go ahead and get started. And actually, I'm going to pivot a bit. Loud, not loud and clear. Perfect. All right. Greetings, Sheroes. Greetings, Sheroes and guests. Again, thank you, Natasha, for the introduction. My name is Lauren Merritt Taylor, and I am your moderator for today's panel. So thank you, panelists, for joining us today. And I'm looking forward to a very exciting session about high performance leadership. And the reason why is because I've never actually done one. Now, that makes it interesting as a moderator because everything I'm going to say is going to be completely authentic. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive right on in. So panelists, let's have a conversation. We talk a lot about leveling up here in She Leads, She Speaks. And I tend to think of players in a game, if you will. Now, all games aren't about competition. So don't worry for those of you who aren't competitive or contest driven. The games do all sorts of things. Sometimes they require slowing down a bit, sometimes strategizing, and oftentimes beating your own score. And that's what it's all about. Every journey or leveling up experience is unique. So everyone is going to do something a little bit different. But before you can win and achieve those goals, you actually have to begin. So that's the issue. Where do you start? So I'm going to pose this question to all three panelists. And I ask that you, of course, discuss, but keep everything concise, treat it like a table topic, about 1 to 2 minutes, if you will, and answer this question. What made you say yes to doing an HPL project? And how did you go about starting? So what made you say yes? And how did you get started? So I'm going to ask Daphne first. Daphne, would you mind answering the question?
Well, like most of my She Leads, She Speaks projects, either Anna tells me to do them or Lisa tells me to do them. But in all seriousness, I had an interest in using different social media platforms to achieve very specific goals. And the She Speaks was looking for committee members for the PR team. And a LinkedIn position was open, and I volunteered for it. And of course, Lisa was like, well, Daphne, you could get HPL credit for this. And I was like, oh, what's an HPL? So if you haven't done an HPL, have no fear. I'm pretty sure there's something in your life that you're working on where you can actually credit it for your HPL. So I would definitely say like Lisa was a huge influence in me completing my HPL.
Excellent. Thank you, Daphne. I see the comment section says the wasn't me defense is what you're going with. And that's fine. That's fine. Sometimes we need a little prompt to press play, if you will, as gamers or future HPLers. So I'm going to ask the same question to our illustrious guest, Shona. Shona, can you tell me what made you say yes to an HPL project and how you got started, please?
Wow, why did I say yes? The same reason why I said yes to joining Toastmasters. It was about not just being a better speaker, but it was about being a better leader. And what better way to be a better leader than to get into a project where I had to lead other people? It's one thing when you have to lead yourself, when you have to motivate yourself. It's a whole situation, another situation when you have to lead other people. And I've I've earned 2 DTMs, one in 2012, only 2 years in being in Toastmasters, and the other one was earned a year ago in 2022. So my first HPL was actually at the time when I was division director for Division E, and I wanted to make sure that my division was going to be distinguished. And so the purpose and the goal of that particular HPL was to bring together my area directors who were on my action committee to help to make sure that we became distinguished. So it was sort of like there were so many different types of leadership going on. There was me leading the folks that are already leading in the organization. And so, you know, how I got started was that I knew that it was a goal that I had to accomplish anyway, in terms of making sure that we were distinguished. But I really wasn't going for just distinguished. I really wanted us to be like the highest level of distinguished. But I figured I'll start there because I didn't want to, you know, scare anybody too much. So I think once I was able to sit down and go over the goals and strategy with my guidance committee, and I had one of the toughest guidance committee. I don't know if any one of you know Marian Guerra and Joseph Martins. These folks, I met them in Toastmasters. When I went to them and told them that I wanted them to be on my guidance committee, literally, I felt like I was in an interview for a job, a high level position, because they were not playing. They were not playing with me. And at the end, I remember actually creating like this whole like presentation and stuff that they weren't even expecting because I went a level above what they were expecting. But they were not going to be easy on me. They were definitely making sure that I was doing all the things that I needed to do to make this project successful.
Thank you, Shona. And wow, I don't know the first name, but I do know the second one. in the comment section. That is quite the duo. So you definitely had to.
They were no joke.
First place. Thank you. And Lisa, last but never least, can you please tell us what your yes was? Why did you start an HPL project and how did you get started?
I wanted to become a distinguished Toastmaster. And at the time, you could not do an HPL project and not become a distinguished Toastmaster. I've done 5, or I'm working on my 5th HPL project. And I think the best way to describe how I got into this was the same rule of thumb that I give to my mentees, which is you want to do things that you like, love, and illuminates your perspectives. And for me, it's been an interesting evolution when I look back across the projects that I've worked on, because initially I did things that I could do for Toastmasters, but I think now I'm doing things and looking at it from the perspective of what Toastmasters can do for me. My initial projects were district Toastmasters activities. They focus mostly on managing people. It was around planning and executing of projects. But my last 3 projects are really focused more on professional and personal development. I'm honing my leadership capabilities and competencies. I find myself spending more time learning how to develop a vision, fostering like thought development and ideas from a group of people, and taking that vision, those ideas, and working to bring teams together to bring them into fruition. And so it's really been a journey for me to not just think about what I can give back to Toastmasters, but making sure that Toastmasters invests back into me.
Excellent answers, ladies. Like, you all should be fired up by now, because we're getting the path to how to start, and there are different ways, whether it's, again, a nudge to press play, whether it's, you know what, I really need to do this. I'm going to have to do this anyway. So I may as well shift my perspective and get into the mindset about being okay with stepping into leadership, and then becoming confident in being that leader, and then doing things that you care about. So I think that's really important, because again, why are we doing it if we don't care about it? So thank you very much for your responses thus far. So I'm going to shift into my next question. So every game has challenges. You all know I'm a gamer. Every game has challenges. There are side quests, there are obstacles, and sometimes there are even big bosses that you have to kind of take down. In this case, it could be anything from family, health, and so on. So let's talk about staying the course in the midst of this game, if you will, during your HPL project. So how did you stay the course during your HPL journey in the midst of challenges, whatever they may be? So I'll say this again. How did you stay the course in the midst of your HPL journey with whatever challenges might have come your way? So anyone can feel free to answer that, but I think I'll pick on Shona. I think she has something to say.
Well, thank you so very much, Lauren. It's my second project was very different. Like Lisa, I went outside of Toastmasters for my second project. And the second project that I did had to do with a church organization that I used to belong to. And my goal was to create a new website for them, because they had gone through just a loss of a lot of the congregation members in the past few years because of COVID and things like that. And so I was doing this as a way to help them sort of bring presence to their church again, but also to see how I can work with people outside of the organization and within the organization, because my guidance committee was within Toastmasters. And so one of the things that really, when I thought about starting this, the goal in mind, of course, was to complete the project, but the goal in mind was that I knew what the DCP goals were for our club. And I knew that in order for us to reach a specific distinguished status that year, that we had to have a very high level path that was met. And so at that particular point, that was me. And so I figured, you know what, this is a great way for me to, do something that's not just going to just be a goal for me, but for a goal for a club and a goal for this church as well. So it was fitting all types of needs. The important thing about getting started too, Lauren, is recognizing when you have to begin this process. Because if this is something you're trying to accomplish before the end of the Toastmasters year, you don't want to start this 2 or 3 weeks before the Toastmasters year is over. So this was something that I had to think strategically, even the previous year, and say, for next year, I'm going to be doing an HPL, because I know it's going to take at least 3 to 6 months to complete it for this particular project. So the time management of it was the most important part of it, because I had to make sure that I had the people's time that I was working with at the church. I had to make sure that I completed all of the specific tasks and speeches and things that had to get done and building this website for them. All of that had to be done in between me having my full-time job, other things that I'm doing, other organizations that I'm in, other alliances that I have within my life. And so there are all these things that are happening, right? And it's so, how do you prepare yourself? I think is the important thing in knowing that you want to do this well. I wasn't going to, do this halfway. I was going to do this well where the end product, which is important, which was going to be a brand new website for this church, that launched on the date was supposed to launch that I told them, because again, that was part of the plan. And it also met the time frame of when I needed to have that submitted for our club so that they can get that DCP goal. So there are so many things that goes into that. And I think the preparation is key, and understanding how much time you have to get this done, because there are speeches involved. There are things that you have to get done in order to complete it.
Wow. Preparation is key. Absolutely. If you fail to plan, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So
Yeah.
that's at
And,
least.
and just to add one more thing, sorry, Lauren, there were challenges on the side of the church in the sense that, I couldn't always get the folks when I needed them. I had to go and take photos of the church because they didn't even have a selection of photos that I could use. So I literally was using my own cell phone to go take photos of the interior of the church, the exterior of the church, to build this whole history and to build this narrative for this new website. And so, there are things that were happening that I had to be aware of. I had to show up at certain services so I can get them actively engaging, because these were going to all play into the new feel and what we were trying to put out there in terms of what the church was offering. So I just wanted to mention that there were definitely challenges along the way.
That's definitely a good point. Some things you simply can't prepare for. So it seems like, and I'm going to shift this over to Daphne, some things that you may not have anticipated, like taking pictures of the interior and exterior of the church. So Daphne, did you have any challenges like that just kind of took you aback, or that you had to kind of step in and say, okay, I'm going to have to solve this particular problem, even though I didn't foresee it?
Yes, I think whenever you are working on a project, you will have challenges and obstacles. And I think for me, the most important was to think about what were the goals that I was trying to attain. So the main goal of my HPL was to really to get She Leads, She Speaks members to network with one another professionally. So like when people come to the club, especially during the COVID period, we were just meeting virtually. And I think for Lisa, she was the vice president of education and also became the the president. So she was getting the opportunity to learn a lot about different people's professional goals or where they are professionally, but that was not happening within the club. And my goal of taking over a LinkedIn was to create a LinkedIn page, and B, to really encourage members to utilize LinkedIn. And in the midst of that, I also created a LinkedIn campaign. So for me, two of the goals were going really well. I created the page. People were learning how to create their page, learning how to be more engaged in LinkedIn. However, when it came to the LinkedIn campaign, I think the way that I had set up the campaign, it created some barriers. I had to create a tracking document for measuring people's engagement on LinkedIn. And I realized, I was like, okay, our members are actually very active on LinkedIn, but for some reason, not all of them are actually participating in this campaign. What's going on? And I really had to think about, am I just going to be satisfied with the things that are going well? Or am I going to pivot? And I had to pivot so fast. I laugh now, but at the time I was just like, oh man, what happened to my plan? I am an organizer. I can do that in my sleep. I will put a plan together. But when things don't go wrong, I really have to focus on doing what's needed. I think earlier Shauna had talked about how emotional intelligence is important for leading. It was really the moment where I was like, am I going to lead on this project or let this project like drag me to the finish line? And for me, that was the most important challenge is the plan doesn't always work. And what are you going to do?
Wow. That are you hearing this, everyone? Because I know I'm taking this in as well. Are you going to lead the project? Or are you going to let it drag you across the finish line? Whatever your goals are you going to take charge? Are you going to, or as soon as there's adversity or a little bit of a challenge, are you going to shrink inside yourself? So I think these are good things to keep in mind, because whatever it is that you're trying to do, if it's that important, then this is what you need to do. So, all right. And Lisa, what about your challenges? How did you stay the course? How did you stay the course despite what might have been coming your way?
For me, it was in two parts. So at work, I am the national co-sponsor of the African American Resource Group. And the first 12 to 18 months that I was in the role, I found it odd that we had 7 resource groups and we never talked to each other. I didn't know, and coming in new into the role, I didn't know what were some of the best practices. I didn't know who my counterparts were in the other resource groups. I just found it odd that we were so siloed when we're all working towards the same goal of promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. I also found it odd that we didn't have anything to really promote the resource groups themselves. I know we had a DEI department. I know they did certain things, but I thought it could be something that could be taken upon ourselves to promote our resource groups, recruit memberships, recruit resources to help us to accomplish our goals. I had come up with what I thought was a great idea, bringing together all 7 resource groups for a week to talk about certain topics of interest to their membership, make it publicize it to the entire organization. And maybe at the end, we could have like a roundtable discussion about current topics in DEI. I took this to our Chief Diversity Officer and was emphatically told no. That was my first big challenge, right? What do you do when somebody tells you no? I know in this club that we like to think that no is a complete sentence that's said often, but it's not really a complete sentence because we spend most of our time trying to figure out how to get around the no, right? We want to be the exception to the rule. We want to challenge the rule. And I went with the latter, right? I was trying to challenge the rule, but I went nowhere. And I was honestly disheartened that the leadership wouldn't support the resource groups collaborating and helping them to promote their efforts. But one of the things I learned about no's is that timing is everything. Unfortunately, we experienced the murder of George Floyd. Diversity, equity, inclusion became a whole new sphere in organizations. And we got a new chief diversity officer. And it was at that moment that I struck. I started to huddle together all of the leaders of the resource groups, and I pitched my idea to them. And they were supportive of it. And with them being my support, I initially was able to have the conversation with the new chief diversity officer, and she said yes. So for this to even come into fruition, it took 2 years of me waiting for the right time to propose what was a great idea and being able to lay the groundwork to achieve what I wanted to achieve, which was simply, I just wanted the 7 resource groups to collaborate and talk with each other. What happened afterwards became another great experience because of the challenges that I had to overcome. I had started the discussion in the summertime, and one of the requirements that the Chief Diversity Officer had for me was that the event cannot be held during a cultural heritage month. So that basically left January and August. And August had already passed, and so January it was. I was able to get the planning committee together. I was able to get the interest, but my next challenge was really around, what do I do next? I had this idea, but I didn't know what to do next. And honestly, one of the best decisions that I made was to turn this into an HPL project. I asked members of She Leads, She Speaks to serve on my HPL committee, and they were my thought leaders. They were my idea generators. Things that I had never thought about doing, like developing a tagline, developing brand and visualization materials for the event, what type of topics, the theme of the topics around intersectionality. None of that would have come into fruition if I didn't have this as an HPL project and I didn't have people helping me to solicit ideas on how to execute it.
Absolutely.
And so when I was able to get all of those pieces into place, my week-long event eventually became a month-long event. It was 19 events in that month-long celebration. The president and CEO of the organization gave me a huge shout out 2 or 3 times, and I ended up getting promoted at the end of this. And so for me, the challenge of the no and the challenge of understanding that I couldn't do this on my own were some of the biggest lessons that I've had for me professionally and personally.
Thank you. Because challenge-wise, it sounds like everyone has something in common. That was time, whether it be time management, doing it now, or just simply finding the right time. So just to be mindful of our time, I'm going to give you all the next 30 seconds to give me a response to one of my final questions, and that's stepping up to the next level and winning solutions. So just with a 30-second blurb, can you all just tell me what you think makes a next level HPL project, just in a short and concise manner? What do you think makes a next level HPL project exactly? So let's start with you, Daphne.
I think a next level HPL project is one that stress you out. I think everybody likely comes to an HPL with different experiences, different level of management. For me, it was really my first time leading on something. So there was a lot of opportunities to learn. But what I would encourage everyone to think in regards to HPL, don't wait until you're ready. Like, if an opportunity presents itself, take it. You will learn throughout the whole project, and you'll have a committee with you to help you think through the project. That's what I would say.
Excellent. Thank you, Daphne. And Shona, 30 seconds, just really quickly, can you tell me what you think makes a next level HPL project?
I think really approaching it from the perspective of solving a problem. I really like Lisa's example in terms of, her no turned into a not yet, and she was able to solve multiple, situations with that one project, which I think is a beautiful thing, and that's what you want to do. One thing that I do want to say in terms of how to really make it next level is that for me, in my coaching experience where I coach people, I tell people to use the SMART goals. I think you guys all probably know what the SMART goals are. Really think about this project. Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it attainable? Is it realistic? Is it time bound? So when you start thinking about those things, and the answers are what they need to be, then I think you're in a good path there. But I think if you're able to solve a problem, not just for yourself, but maybe for humanity, I think that's a really great place to start.
Thank you. And Lisa, so we're stretching, we're solving a problem. Lisa, what do you think makes a next HPL project just in the next 30 seconds?
I'll just echo what Daphne and Shona said, and maybe rephrase it in terms of Elisa speak, which is you can't whitewash your HPL project. If you select a project that doesn't have half of weight and size and scope behind it, you're only going to whitewash your leadership capacity, right? And to the point that Daphne was making, you want to do something that's going to stretch you, make you feel uncomfortable, right? If you pick a topic, a space that you are comfortable or you have a lot of knowledge of, you're not going to get that growth from the leadership side that you're seeking. So my recommendation or my suggestion out there is don't whitewash your HPL project.
Wow. Thank you so much, ladies. Would you believe that our panel flew by that quickly? That was absolutely amazing. We're talking about stretching. We're talking about size and scope. There was a lot of S's in there, a lot of alliteration, which I like. So you all had amazing projects. You all had a lot of solutions that you had in there that you thought made your project successful, and also just helping us understand that you need to understand time when it comes to this project. It shouldn't just be anything. You should be excited about what you're doing. So this was absolutely phenomenal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift over to our Q&A session because we do have a few questions for you all. And I know that you're going to give us some insight and more wisdom about HPLs and why we should do 1, 2, or 5 HPL projects. Maybe you all on the road there too. So thank you again, ladies, for your time and your effort with this panel discussion. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to ask is if anyone wants to come off mute with a question, and then I can pose that question to you all. So does anyone have a question that they did not put in the chat, but maybe it's stewing or it's in your brain right now?
I had a question. I wanted to know if Toastmasters provides you with any type of resources or guidance in terms of how to go through the project. So do they provide you with like a packet, step 1, step 2, step 3, just the kind of things that would help to guide you, especially if this is your first HPL project?
Oh, I think I know who can answer this question because Daphne, I'm sort of familiar with not sort of, I am familiar with your project because it was my first introduction here. So could you tell us how that works? Do we have guidance or is it more so leaning on our club?
Yes, you do have guidance. I'm not really sure if you have familiarity with pathways. So it's very similar to any pathway project where you are giving like a checklist of everything that you need to do, and also the specific documents. So an example of some of the checklists include setting up a meeting with your committee. So it also provides you with like an agenda template that you can use or adapt to host meeting with your committee. It also have a document to creating goals to make them smart, as Shauna had shared. So yes, you will have the resources that you need from Toastmasters to complete it.
Excellent. Thank you, Daphne. And I want to kind of build on that question a little bit. Do you think that, especially for, Shona and Lisa, if you've done multiple HPLs, do you find that what you need changes based on either the project or even perhaps having done more than one?
Yeah, I'll take that one. I think based on what you're doing, yes, your needs do change. And for instance, there's an order, as Daphne was saying, in which you have to do this. You have to first get your guidance committee first, and then you have to go over the plan with them. You have to create a mission. You have to create a vision about what you're going to be doing and have them approve that before you even get started. So there are some things involved there. You have to let your VP, you know that you're doing this. I think it's important to understand that the people that you're going to be working, especially your action committee, your action group, they may have different things going on in their lives. And so the time commitment that they may be able to give to you may be varying. So you need to figure that out very quickly. So just choosing who's going to be on that action committee to get that stuff done is really, really critical. Because again, they're going to be looking at everything that you're doing. They're going to be assessing it. You're going to have to give speeches on this because there are required speeches you have to give when you present this HPL and then when you have concluded it, because you have to actually show that you concluded this. So I think the needs do change based on who's involved in your HPL and what kind of commitment they're going to have to it. That's where that management or leadership piece comes in. So yeah, you do have to think about that for sure.
That's very insightful because I didn't even think about the pre-committee before, and just that you do have what you need and it does change. So that is extremely helpful. Thank you, Daphne and Shona. Lisa, I have a question for you. Someone asked what was the typical time frame for HPL projects. I know you mentioned something about 2 years, and I nearly had a heart attack because I said that's a long time. And it didn't dawn on me that maybe this isn't a Toastmasters year thing. Maybe it's something that takes a little bit longer. So is there a typical time frame?
There's not a typical time frame, but there is an implication that your HPL project is of such significance that it's going to take you longer than a moment, right, to execute. How long that moment is really dependent upon the project that you choose. For my first HPL project, it was organizing a TLI division TLI. I may have only spent like 2-ish months planning and executing that project. When I did the implementation of District 36 expense electronic reimbursement system, that was a year, right? Because the Toastmasters year was a whole year and we started implementing it at the beginning. And I couldn't really say that I finished it until the end of my term, which was the end of the fiscal year. For other projects, it's been anywhere from 3 to 5 months. So it just really depends upon the project and the natural ebb and flows of it. Of course, you probably want to be strategic, right, in what project that you choose, because to your point, you definitely don't want to be working on anything for like 2 years. But there are ways that you can carve out sections of a long-term project like that and turn it into an HPL project.
That's smart. And you're right, that is strategic. I didn't think about breaking up into chunks. And I'm not sure who else thought about that, but that's a good way to approach that. So notice all the different approaches that they're taking with how to go about it. So I guess it's not so cut and dry as just to simply reading it and saying, oh, this is an HPL project. Let's get started and go checklist. So okay, that definitely.
So Lauren, can I quickly answer that as well? For me, my first project, the one where I wanted my division to be distinguished, that one was a year-long project because I had to work with the area directors over the course of the year to make sure that they were working with their clubs. And my second project, which went towards my second DTM, that was like a 3 to 6 month situation because again, I had to involve people outside of Toastmasters and work around their schedules. So I don't see HPL projects being like, within weeks. They're usually months to much longer.
Okay, see, which means you have to be dedicated to this, which goes back to what you all were saying about, do I care about what I'm actually doing for this project? Because if you don't, I'm sure it's just, why? I don't want to do this anymore. And we want to start, like I said before, press play, and we want to get to the point where we get the results that we're looking for by, as you said, having a solution, doing something that stretches you, like Daphne said, and thinking about the size and the scope, as Lisa said as well. And I have another question. I'm not sure if anyone has any that I've missed. Please let me know. But this one asks, can you do an HPL with only 2 people on your HPL committee? So I'm guessing what they're saying is there a certain number of people that you should have that would probably help, you advance your project. But are two people enough for an HPL committee, or does it matter?
Lauren, per the rules in the Pathways curriculum, you must
Mhm.
have at minimum 3 people, and one of the 3 people can be outside of Toastmasters.
Noted. So no to the two people thing. So make sure you're following the rules of the HPL carefully. So even if you have to have someone help you break it down in chunks so you're not missing any steps, I suppose that would be helpful as well, right? That works. There is an additional question. As far as results, do you all think that you achieved the results that you were looking for initially with your HPL project? I'm sure you had something in mind, but did you achieve those results, or did those results again shift based on your project, or I guess your mindset from beginning to end? What do you think, Daphne? Did you achieve the desired results, or did those results kind of shift from how you started to where you finished?
I definitely feel like I achieved the level of impact that I wanted to have. A major of success for me was really to teach those who hadn't been active on LinkedIn how to use it, how to create their own profile, and really to make it a tool of their own professional development. And now when I log into like LinkedIn and I do see members being active on it, and I see members networking with one another, I'm just like, yes, this is actually what I wanted to do. And another part of it was also the She Leads, She Speaks page. That page has been in existence for 2 years now, and it has grown tremendously. Now, not all of the growth occurred within my HPL project, but I think there is definitely something to say about impact when you see the project and you see, like, even after you're not involved in it, it continued to grow. And like seeing like how active that you and your team, the PR committee, is doing with the She Leads, She Speaks page just brings me a lot of pride.
Thank you. And this attributes to legacy succession. And I'm sure that uh, again, Lisa and Lisa and Shona, that you have some ideas about legacy too. Shona, about your webpage for the church, tell us about those results, about legacy. Did you leave the lasting impact that you wanted to?
Oh my gosh. You know, when I first approached the church about this and I told them what I was gonna do, and I really took a professional route in how I was gonna do this to create this website for them. And when they chose their template and I started to work on it and I was showing them what the site was going to look like, I mean, people were blown away. And the critical part was the functionality of it. Like once it was launched, and they were able to look at it and they saw themselves and they were so thrilled. I mean, beyond belief. I mean, members all of a sudden, for the years that they didn't see themselves on this page in this church, were seeing themselves. And so I think it was a huge success in that way, in that, I felt like there was a little bit of darkness over those 2+ years. And now all of a sudden there was a little bit of light that they could see just with this website, where I had gone to numerous services and events they had within those weeks and months I was working on this. And I was capturing all these on my phone. And then now they were on their website. So yeah, I mean, incredibly, I mean, for them, it was like something that they can have for a very, very long time to come. They can build on it even more. But they were, I mean, beyond happy about what this produced for them, and to be able to have certain things be more electronic and virtual now for them. That was a huge deal in the world that we're living in right now. So yeah, absolutely. But when I did my first project where I worked with the area directors, to see them, the area directors, after completing that project, they were all excited about doing their HPL because they got a taste of it. and they got to see how it worked. And they even saw the challenges and realized how we got through the challenges together. So, I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing when you surpass what you expect. And I think in both instances, I certainly did surpass that expectation.
That is amazing. Like you two are, these are really cool HPL projects, you know, getting to witness Daphne's firsthand as a new member and becoming her successor. I know she did that on purpose. And you, and you leaving what you did with the church. And then Lisa, I'm going to have you, this will be the final question. And it's the same one. You did an elder care plan talking about, you know, really making sure that things are in place. Can you tell us about, you know, your results and what you were expecting versus what happened? Because winning solutions are different for everybody. The game is won differently. So tell us about that.
That's a great question. So last year in Chile Speaks, we had a wellness campaign. And you could earn points in a wellness campaign if you completed a care plan, specifically 5,000 in this. So I did this, and it was something that I've been wanting to do for like 10 or 15 years. And 15 years ago, I came home and my family told me that I was going to be the executive for my parents' estate. And I said,
Lisa, just a second. We're having trouble hearing you, and I just wanted to make sure that was the case. We didn't want to miss your great answer. We're getting some feedback.
is it still present?
Ooh, still a little bit. Because we know you're saying some great things. We do not want to miss that.
I'm going to try this microphone. Is this okay?
Much better.
Perfect. Okay. So last spring, the club She Speaks held a wellness campaign. And as part of that wellness campaign, you could earn 5,000 points if you completed an elder care plan. And I was extremely invested in this because my parents had not told me that I had been the executor of their estate, and I know nothing about estate planning, any of that. Every time that I tried to ask the question, I felt like I was on Dateline NBC, because my mother would just start screaming that you're not going to send me to an early grave, right? And so my parents never wanted to talk about it, but I wanted to know because I wanted to do right by them. And I was really excited that the wellness campaign had this opportunity. And since I knew nothing about the topic, I had asked, again, members of She Speaks to assist me in putting together the elder care plan. Truly, the committee helped me to know things that I did not know, right? I use a lot of the members from my DEI HPL to serve in this committee, but I also asked people who were not part of the last committee who had expertise, to Shona's point earlier, that could help me with this project. I didn't know that there was a difference between a financial and a medical power of attorney. I didn't realize that that was different from an advanced care directive. I never really understood the Medicare drawdown plan, and now I have actual legal strategies that I can use with my parents on how to make sure that their assets are secured following their deaths, right? It was little things like that that really benefited me and really exceeded my expectations, because with my elder care plan, I just thought, I didn't even know where it was going to go, but it ended up being a 115-page document that I was able to give to my parents. And since then, we've been completing that document in terms of getting the documentations together, understanding what's in the will. I even created my own will. I had no intent of doing that, but because of this process, I actually reached out to an attorney and got that done. So it was all of the HPL projects, especially that elder care plan. I just really went above and beyond in terms of what I had hoped I would gain out of it, because it was just almost transforming for me. I felt much more empowered by the end of the HPL project than I had coming into it. And so, yeah, there was a lot of
the comments are teasing.
Benefits here.
They want to know if they're in your will. I think that's something they have to take up with you because we've come to the end of our time. So they will contact you after to make sure they get a nice lump sum from Lisa because she has all the knowledge now, because there are a couple things you said that I wasn't aware of. So ladies, you're talking about legacy, and I can see how your face is lit up when you're talking about your HPL project. So the L must stand for love, something that you really have a passion to do. Thank you so much for all of your tidbits. So